Professor Christopher Merrill directs the International Writing Program in the University of Iowa, and he is a writer and poet of eminence. Welcome to the studio, Professor Merrill. So, since the times are bad, generally also the new American president is taking oath.
Yes.
How it would mean, like, if I can ask about that, how it would affect the expression, the media, the writing in that country, and maybe other places in the world also.
Well, American writers in general are very nervous about what may happen. We cherish freedom of expression, but we are about to inaugurate a president who seems not to care very much about press freedom, and so we will find out very quickly what the effects will be. My sense is that journalists are trying to find new ways to cover the presidency of Donald Trump, and poets and writers will find new ways to bear witness to whatever it is seems to be coming our way in the next few years. It is, for most American artists and writers and intellectuals, a terrifying scenario that we are looking at.
But there are, of course, early signs of what is going to come, like that press conference, infamous press conference he had, So, but one thing is there. Is it wise to kind of create a real rift and end it forever, and there is no redemption, there is no going back kind of thing? Is it wise to do that? For the media also.
Well, the media is bound and determined to record the truth, right? And it's always the case that when you are covering politicians, that you have to wade through the different levels of obfuscation, but we have never been in a situation where we have a president or president-elect who lies as much as Donald Trump does. So we have to figure out new ways to call him out on his lies. That's on the media side. For intellectuals, writers, artists, our job will be to figure out how to record what's going on in this time, and to be courageous, to try to remember what it is that we are here to do, and tell the truth, as complicated and difficult as that may be.
But it has to be confrontation only.
Well, he's certainly a confrontational figure, and he likes to throw a lot of things around. It's a remarkable change from President Obama, who is one of the most eloquent politicians or political figures we have ever seen. And I noticed last week the New York Times ran a very interesting piece about the books, Obama's reading habits, and he's a great reader. He's a great writer. And Trump's ghostwriter for The Art of the Deal said in a tweet that he was pretty sure Donald Trump had never read a book in his adult life. So we really are it's night and day for us now.
Two things about you really caught my attention extra. One is that you are a chevalier, an award from the French government, which is, of course, given to other persons also, religious persons also, writers also. And secondly, you pioneered a move to get Iowa City the status of a city of literature.
UNESCO City of Literature.
This is closer to our heart, because like in Rajasthan, we try to get our cities recognized by UNESCO as heritage cities. Like one of our sanctuaries is a heritage site, like Keladev, Bharatpur. So how did you do it? And what is this city of literature as such? You have, of course, the place is known for its writers and tradition in writing.
Well, it's a funny story, because we had the University of Iowa pioneered the teaching of creative writing in America with our famous Writers' Workshop, and we, at the university, the provost convened a task force on the writing university. And in the course of putting together a white paper of inventorying the many different literary resources we have on campus, we stumbled upon this new creative cities network that UNESCO had put together, established in 2004. In one of the disciplines is literature. So I wrote to UNESCO and I said, would you ever be interested in entertaining a bid from Iowa City, thinking that it's a small city, it's only 70,000 people.
Ooh, really?
And UNESCO wrote back almost immediately to say, we have been waiting for Iowa City to apply because they view our city as a kind of model for the creative economy, the things that can come out of being a city of literature. There are so many writers in Iowa City, and then the writers, they come to study, they come to give readings, they come to be a part of my program, and many writers end up staying. Cafes are opened to host the writers. Publishing houses are created. So you have a very literary place. I like to tell people that Iowa City is the only place in America that if someone asks you what you do and you say you're a poet, they're excited. In the rest of the country, they're like, oh my God, what happened to you? What went wrong in your life? So it was, for us, it was a great exercise to put together the dossier, because it gave us a chance to really find out how rich our literary resources are, and it helped us to see where we might have some holes, things that we needed to create. So we did not have a book festival, for example, as you do here in Jaipur, and somebody stepped forward and thought, let's create a book festival. So the exercise of inventorying our resources gave us a way to think in bigger ways about what the city of literature might be.
So you have 6 books of fiction and 6 books of non-fiction.
Yeah.
Non-fiction, one is headlines, like titles are really, interesting. The Tree of Doves, The Things Hidden God, Self-Portrait with Dogwood. What is dogwood?
Dogwood is a tree that is found throughout the northern hemisphere. It's a very beautiful, kind of smallish tree, and an editor started a series called The Life of Trees and asked me if I wanted to write a book, and I said immediately that I wanted to write about dogwoods. And then as I started to write the book, I was thinking back over my life, and I realized that at many important moments a dogwood tree was somewhere there. So I thought I would write a kind of memoir, but through the lens of nature. To give you an example, we have in the late 70s, some nurserymen in the northwest of our country imported dogwoods from Japan and Korea, the Asian dogwood.
Expensive timber? Or
No, they're just a very beautiful ornamental tree.
Ornamental.
And so people wanted to buy them. The problem was they carried a disease called dogwood anthracnose and another one called powdery mildew, which decimated the native dogwood population in our country. So most of the dogwoods you see in America now are Asian dogwoods. By a quirk of history, I happened to be one of the people planting all those dogwoods in the late 70s in Seattle when I was a graduate student. So in some ways I helped to kill a lot of American dogwoods, and I thought I can fold that into a larger story about East meeting West, about environmental history, and about my early adulthood.
And that is nice to know that you are a tree lover.
Yeah.
Also, what is this Tree of Doves?
The Tree of the Doves is a book about, the subtitle is Ceremony, Expedition, War. Yeah. And so in the first third, which is essentially a very long essay, I traveled to the northernmost province of Malaysia, Kelantan, to write about some of the traditional ceremonies that had been proscribed by the Islamist government, the local Islamist government. I wanted to see this really very beautiful ceremony called Main Putri, playing the princess. It's a sort of exorcism. It combines Islamic, animist, and Buddhist elements, and it's very beautiful dance and improvisatory poetry. And so I used that as a way to talk about the place of ceremony in our lives. Then in the middle section, I wanted to write about all the travels I had made in China, and I wanted particularly to duplicate a trip that a great French poet diplomat, Saint-Jean Paris, made in 1920 from Beijing to Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, and he wrote a poem that has the line, "The Tree of the Dove," so I used that as a part of it. And then the final section, War, is all about my travels in the Middle East in the wake of the War on Terror.
Tell us something about your Balkan experience.
Well, I covered the war in the former Yugoslavia from 1992 to 1995. I came to it because I struck up a friendship with a Slovenian poet living in the United States. We translated together a book of his poems that came out just before the war, and he invited me to come walk across Slovenia. And I had this idea that I would write a little nature book, two poets walking in the woods. This was 1991, 92, end of the Cold War, drinking wine, talking about women, all that kind of stuff. And I got there in time for a war, and I realized that on some level I might be able to tell that story. So I started going back again and again, and ended up traveling in the former Yugoslavia quite a lot. I probably spent about a year and a half out of those three and a half years traveling around.
It was very enriching.
Well, I'm not sure if it was enriching, but it was. It seemed it was hard to imagine that only 8 years after Sarajevo hosted the Winter Olympics, now it was a city under siege, and you had people without gas, water, or electricity.
Expression, Balkanization came after that only? Or
no, that had been around for a long time. Because you had, there were the Balkan Wars in the early part of the last century, it's a long history in the Balkans. Yeah. But a wonderful place to travel, and I remember a military monitor from the European community before the EU said to me of Yugoslavia, he said, it's the most beautiful country on earth, and it's the most screwed up country on earth. And it was both beautiful and terrifying.
Can you briefly tell us about the international writing scenario?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, we've had the very famous Writers' Workshop in Iowa since the mid-1930s. Yeah. And the man who ran the program for 25 years, toward the end of his career, met and eventually married a Chinese novelist named Nie Waling. She had spent her first 18 years on the mainland, then her father was killed in 1948 during the uprising, and she went to Taiwan. He met her in Taiwan, and they became very close. She came to Iowa City, and when he retired from running the Writers' Workshop, she said, why don't you start an international writing program? He thought it was the craziest idea he had ever heard, and then in fact 50 years ago, they created the IWP. And it's a place, we call it the United Nations of Writers. So we bring every year 30 to 35 writers, distinguished writers from around the world. They've at least published one book, sometimes many more. Yeah. And they're in residence together for 3 months. They write, they give readings, they give lectures, panel discussions, but mostly they're interacting. And we always have writers. We'll have a writer from Israel and one from Palestine. They always disagree completely on political matters, but often become friends. This year we had a writer from Ukraine and one from Russia, and they became good friends. So it's a place where you can have a meeting of the minds and have the kinds of discussions we hope will spur bigger ideas about what writing is.
You get Indian students also there?
Oh, we've had many Indian writers in the program. Yeah. This last fall we had Rochelle Patkar from Chennai, and we've had Kiran Nagakar, Kaveri Nambishan. We had Vivek Shambhag this fall as well, who at the moment is here in the Jaipur Literature Festival, and Shabod Shakar from Calcutta was here in the fall. So a lot of Indian writers.
That was nice talking to you. Thank you very much, Professor Merrill.